So I'm going to say over under June 15th. Do you think
Really?
you're seeing the ball club over
I mean,
or under?
I wouldn't mind that if
Yeah.
it was before then, but
Okay.
I'm just gotta get outs. If I
Yeah.
can't do my job in AAA, then I can't expect.
So you're not going to answer my question.
Not really.
Cubs fans, what's up? We're at CubsCon. This is Brandon Birdsell, the Cubs minor league pitcher of the year. Brandon, what's up, man?
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Excited to have you. And this is your second CubsCon. So last year compared to this year with Sammy Sosa, now Kyle Tucker, do you feel a different energy?
Yeah, man. Last night was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then with Rhino and the ovation that he got, man, it's just been such a cool time. It was an honor, being on the same stage with those guys. So yeah, it's been a good time.
Is that a pinch me moment for you?
Yeah, I mean, I loved Sammy Sosa. I just remember, very vividly as a kid loving Sammy Sosa and stuff, and so it was just such a great night.
Yeah, cool, man. So you're a dad now, and I know everyone out there is like, okay, let's just get to what's your stuff. But I wanna ask, being a dad myself too, what's it like being a dad while also having to do what you do as a career?
Yeah.
That's got to be tough.
Yeah, definitely. It's a lot of sacrifice. I mean, I'm not gonna get 9 hours of sleep. It just is what it is. But it's a really cool thing because it really brings you back down to earth, because it doesn't matter how well I did or how bad I did. He doesn't care, and I've gotten in the car plenty of times and he's screaming because he wants to go to bed or he's tired or he's hungry, and so it's a very, very quick bring me back down to earth type of feel, So it's been awesome as a dad, and he was actually born through. I pitched on a Monday night, and then he was born the next day, and then I got promoted that night too, and then my wife went into labor the next day, and we were playing the AAA team was in Nashville.
Okay.
It was for my first start, and so I moved all the stuff down, flew back with the team to Nashville, and her parents drove the baby and her out to Nashville.
Wow.
And so it was hard trying to figure out how to be a dad, and then also, I had the most important starts in my career, trying to figure out how to still get some outs.
You must have pitched pretty well the night before if you got the call up.
Yeah.
There you
that
go.
was my last Double-A start, and took a no-hitter, 6 2/3.
Oh, there you go.
Threw a hanging slider, hit a homer, and struck the next guy out. But
You'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take
that.
it all day.
Cool.
All day.
I think the big thing that Cubs fans want to know about every minor leaguer that is going to be making their debut is just what can we expect? So if someone were to ask you, what does Brandon Birdsell bring to a team, both in terms of your skills, your pitches, what you bring as a player, but also what do you bring just personality-wise and who you are in the clubhouse? I think that would be a really cool thing to
I think the skills wise and all that stuff, it's so hard to tell. You coming for me, I'm just going to go out and give it my all. Sometimes it works out in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. But one thing I've learned in pro ball is being able to take the negatives and what didn't go my way and completely forget about it and move on to the next start. Next start is the new day.
Yeah.
It's a new time to. You're one good start away from getting on a hot streak of 5 good starts. So it's just that keeping that mentality, regardless of how bad you may have pitched. And personality-wise, I'm not the biggest jokester in the world. I'm gonna have little jabs at you, and keep it lighthearted. And so I'd say just consistent.
Okay.
Consistent day in, day out, and I'm pretty easygoing. So
Sweet.
That's what you get from me.
There you go. Let's go back to the stuff. Couple things that I have taken away from doing some research with you is that you started throwing harder this last year.
Yeah.
What do you attribute to that?
I don't know.
Really?
Don't know.
No, you didn't work out any harder? You didn't adjust any mechanics? Nothing?
No, I've always been really good in the weight room. I've always been strong. That was kind of the big thing my first year, and a lot of our staff attributed it to maybe first year of pro ball, increased workload from college. College, you're pitching every 7th day.
Yeah.
Pro ball, it's every 5th day or 6th day, and sometimes you're going Tuesday, Sunday, and you're throwing a lot more. So it's so hard to tell why, but they kept telling me, just, hey, trust it. We promise it's going to fix itself. And so hopefully we take that into this year, or maybe a tick or two higher if the trend keeps continuing that way.
I'd
That'd
like
be
that.
awesome. That'd be cool.
As long as you stay healthy.
Yeah,
Not like the rest of MLB that's, reaching
Yeah.
for velocity and then finds himself on the IL.
Right. In college too, I was actually like 94, 96.
Oh, okay.
So the velocity has been there. It's just
Cool.
like last year or 2 years ago, I was like, where is it at?
Where'd it go? So,
Right.
so was that the outlier then? Just a couple of years ago, was like it just dipped down and now you're back up to normal?
Yeah,
Oh,
pretty
okay.
much. I was a tick higher in college, but I think I'm right around the same. So
Okay.
I don't get up into like the upper 90s like I used to.
Okay.
Maybe this year, I don't know. Maybe with a little bit different environment, but yeah, it's right around the same as it was in college. So
It sounds like your four-seamer, if you were to compare this, it kind of sounds like a Justin Steele thing going on. It's got a natural cut to it.
yeah,
As a fan, once again, should we expect like, hey, this is kind of the righty version of like Justin Steele. You don't know what that four-seamer is going to do. Sometimes it'll cut, sometimes it doesn't, and it keeps batters off balance. Is that kind of how you describe it?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of times fans think it's a bad thing when your pitch is inconsistent. That's the good thing about the cutter is, I don't change how I throw it, and I'm not this big master wrist manipulator like
Okay.
people think I am. It just sometimes I get a little more out front, sometimes I start it lower, sometimes it just stays up, and so it's kind of, if it was consistent in one way, the hitter's not really, caught off guard.
Mm-hmm.
But when it can move different ways, then it's a little bit harder to know exactly what the pitch is going to do.
Cool.
So sometimes it has a true slider depth, and sometimes it's just a straight cutter. So
That's really interesting. I mean, with the highlights that we see from guys like you in the minors, we don't really get a true same view as like what you get in the majors. So
Yeah.
I feel like one day when you finally get on the mound, we're going to be like, oh, that. In fact, I talked to Porter Hodge about that. He even said, he was like, I didn't realize that that's how my pitch moved until I made my major league debut, because he never saw it from right behind home plate like
yeah,
that.
I mean, you look at our Tennessee broadcast, and I mean it's blurry, and
Yeah.
so it's hard to tell and whatnot. So yeah, that'd be definitely a different viewpoint.
Cool. You were also saying in that interview with Greg Huss that you were working on a changeup. That was a few months back.
Yep.
Any development in that?
It's actually better now. I've, a lot of people think I don't have one, but I do. It's just about getting it working in the game.
Yeah.
With pitchers, sometimes there's just that mental thing where it's
100%.
transferring it from the bullpen to the game. So I think for me this year, especially early on facing live hitters in spring training, you got to take the success out of
Yeah.
it. You got to get yourself ready for the season.
Yeah.
And so I might throw more changeups than I've ever done before, because early on you're like, I just want to strike everyone out, I want to feel good. But if I can get used to it early in spring training and you get it to translate to the regular season, I think it'd definitely be another weapon.
So, have you ever tried the splitter grip?
No, my fingers, I don't have the dexterity.
Oh, okay.
So like this kind of hurts my fingers. I can't do that. And so
Isn't that crazy?
if I was a splitter guy,
Yeah.
I'd be digging in there and
Yeah.
be like, oh, I know it's coming out. So
Okay. It's so interesting how just from pitcher to pitcher, because you, as a baseball fan maybe who's never played baseball, it's just kind of like, well, if that pitch works for him, why wouldn't it work for
Right.
another guy? But like, it's just like what you said, the feel thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can have a feel for a pitch, and then a month later you completely lose it.
right. Yeah. So for instance, like Justin Steele, his wrist. I'll speak for myself. My wrist doesn't do this very well,
Okay.
or this. So
this?
my wrist naturally does this.
Yeah.
So that's why the fastball has cut.
Yeah.
Because my wrist
That makes
does
sense.
this, and so that's what all my pitches. My wrist is doing this. So fastball is doing this. My slider is doing this,
Yeah.
and my cutter is literally just it's a moved over fastball grip, and I'm throwing it. I'm getting up front, letting it come off the middle finger, doing the same thing. My
Which makes
changeup-
sense why the changeup doesn't work as
Yeah.
well, because changeup you're typically
Right.
what do they call that? Pronating?
Yeah, pronate. So last year we came up with a grip to where like I kind of have this finger spiked and I'm split across the
seam?
middle.
Okay.
Yeah, the middle, and I throw it like a fastball, just with different fingers. And so it has like a cut, like you kick it off the seam and it like does this, and then
Okay.
it creates depth too. And so my wrist And with the changeup, when I try to pronate it, I push it and it's flat.
Okay.
So I actually have to think fastball and cut it, and the grip kind of creates the shape for itself.
When you see that pitch, does it? I don't know how much you've watched Kyle Hendricks, but I think of Kyle Hendricks, he has two changeups. The one that goes away
Yeah.
from the lefty, and the one that kind of like just stays away from the righty,
Yeah.
going different ways. Is it more like that one where it's got a little bit, even though it's a changeup, a little bit of a cut to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, mine, no.
Oh, okay.
So I throw it. I have to think cut. I have to think cut the ball.
Okay.
But the way the pitch is and the way it kicks off the seam, it creates a shape to where it doesn't cut. But it's
That's
just
really
so
interesting.
it's just so that my wrist, I don't have to do this.
Okay.
Because I'm not very good at that.
Okay.
And so I actually learned it from my teammate last year, Dan Straley, who was with us.
Nice.
He's like, every pitch I throw, it's the same exact feel.
Yeah.
And so if you can limit all the extra stuff and the extra feels, and when you're on the mound, you don't want to think.
Right.
So if I can get on the mound and I can do the same thing just with different grips and
Yeah.
have the same feel, you're going to get a lot more consistent
Absolutely.
pitches than when you got to think about doing all sorts of stuff.
So when we think about the way that your wrist moves and everything, and your really funky arm action, first of all, what I heard was that arm action just has always been kind of natural for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Which is crazy because, and you guys will see it when we're flashing some of the highlights. It's a very unique arm action. Do you think that part of that is linked to the wrist movement, or do you think that's completely separate?
I think it's just separate. I mean, the wrist and the arm action has changed year to year, not intentionally, it just naturally. And I've never really thought about it as long as, the hitter tells you everything you need to know. So there's something to it that they don't like. So I'm just going to keep it that way.
How long have you been doing that arm action?
I've always had a shorter arm action. Maybe my freshman year of college. No, my freshman year of college and sophomore, I was a little shorter. But it just naturally got that way. I never tried to make it shorter or anything like that. So
A really cool thing, and I don't know if the Cubs have just like called up San Jacinto and said, hey, we just want to take all of the guys that are pitchers from you, but you went to San Jacinto in Texas with Luke Little, Jack Neely, and then you as well came out of there. Have you taken any of that relationship with those guys being first-time big leaguers and said, hey, guys, like, I'm going to be in the big leagues next year, help me out? Like, what was the biggest adjustment? Like, do you talk to them at all?
it's just, if it were to happen this year, it's just comfortable, familiar faces.
Mm-hmm.
And creates a little bit better of an environment for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also guys too, like, Cade Horton that I played against in college. So there's a lot of familiarity,
Cool.
within the guys that I'm around. And so it just makes it, just a little bit easier of a transition on one side of it. So
Cool. Have you had those conversations yet, or are you thinking you'll do that when you get the call?
probably when I get the call.
Okay.
Actually, it hasn't been a great. I haven't had enough time. I haven't played on a team long enough with either one of them. I remember
Gotcha.
I got up to Tennessee. Luke was moved up the next day.
Okay.
And then Luke was in AZ pretty much all last year, and Jack was with us, and then he got called up, and then he came back down for like a day, and then got called back up from Rochester. So I just haven't had a lot of time to talk
Got it.
about that.
When you do make that major league debut, have you pictured it in your mind?
Yeah.
Is there a certain thing that stands out when you do picture it?
I mean, I'm an emotional guy, so
Okay.
I know I'm going to shed a tear or two.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to keep that sort of stuff in. So
Okay.
just I've heard, take a second, step back off the mound, look around, because you only get one debut, and so I'm going to just try and take it all in, while also still try and do a decent job.
Now, I think about a few different ways guys make debuts, including just some former teammates of yours recently. Porter Hodge gets called up, doesn't make his debut for like 8 days, and just sits on the bench and then has this incredible debut. Meanwhile, Ben Brown, he gets called up because of an injury, and he's making his debut the same day that he's called up. Which of those scenarios do you prefer? Do you want to just get thrown into the fire, or do you want to be able to like soak it in a little bit?
However.
Yeah?
Yep. If I'm a big leaguer, however, you don't wish injury upon anybody or anything like that.
Right.
But however it happens, man, that's how God has a plan for you. So
Well, I will and let's do an over/under here. There's depth in this pitching rotation, but also there's a lot of question marks with guys like Cade and Ben Brown, and then you've got, people are talking about Nate Pearson potentially getting a shot. There's a lot of question marks there, whether it's injury or performance. So it feels to me like you have a chance to get called up relatively quickly if all things line up. So I'm going to say over/under June 15th. Do you think you're seeing the ball club over or under?
I wouldn't mind that if it was before then, but I'm just gotta get outs. If I can't do my job in AAA, then I can't expect.
So you're not gonna answer my question.
Not really.
Okay.
So I just gotta keep getting outs and let the cards fall where they may. So
cool. I'll end with this. First of all, congratulations on being the Cubs minor league pitcher of the year. But you seem like a very humble guy. But does that carry any sort of hey, pride? I did this. I accomplished this. How does that feel to know that you were named that?
It's a slippery slope. It's, there's part of you that feels very egotistical, and then there's a part of you, you just got to come back down to earth. And I can't take what I did last year into this year. That does nothing for me, and so I've got to clean slate, start new, and just focus on keep getting outs, striking guys out, and So, but when I first got told, man, it was cool. It's a cool award, it's a cool accomplishment, and but then I had to remind myself, like I said, slippery slope. And then I remind myself, what, really. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter for next year, so you just got to keep working for next year. So
okay, well, we'll see if I'm gonna say under June 15th. That's my answer to the question.
That's his answer, not mine.
So we'll see you there, Brandon.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.